The hunt for El Chapo.
This is the most heavily guarded prison in Mexico.
God, I love Fern videos.
Tall mesh fences, huge watchtowers. The area is a no-fly zone. This prison is considered to be unescapable. Yet today, someone will escape. This someone happens to be the world's most powerful drug lord, El Chapo. He won't use any violence, nor will he climb over the fence. All he will do is walk into his shower and disappear.
Yeah, we've heard about this before, where he dug that big-ass tunnel from, like, one property all the way through the prison, and he had, like, a motorbike on a train track. He had absurd money to get out of jail. Isn't he now held in, like, a supermax prison in, like, the middle of nowhere in, like, Idaho? He's never getting out now. El Chapo was found guilty, and he's in life in prison in 80X Florence in Colorado. Is this where he is? Dude, he's in the middle of nowhere. Look at that. He's just in, like, the Colorado mountains. There's actually a baseball field right there. Why is there a baseball field right there? He's dead? El Chapo's not dead. Yeah, El Chapo's 68. I'm pretty sure he lives... We didn't watch a video about the hunt for El Chapo. We watched a video about what El Chapo's life is like. And he is in a guarded prison all day alone. And he gets like an hour outside of his cell in a gated area where he could see the sky like either once a day or once a week. He doesn't interact with anyone. Like, he doesn't talk to people.
This is the story of how El Chapo became one of the most successful drug dealers in the history of mankind, how he was hunted by authorities for decades, and how he escaped them over and over again. And it's the story of how an interview with a Hollywood actor and a failing car engine finally brought him down.
He did an interview with Sean Penn. Why? The man from the mountain, El Señor de la Montaña.
Joaquin Archivado Guzman Loera was born on April 4th, 1957, in a poor family in a poor neighborhood, the village La Tuna in Mexico's Sierra Madre Mountains. Boys here don't grow up wishing to be astronauts, firefighters, or doctors. They want to become drug traffickers. It's a way to make money, and money is a way out.
Do you think that's really the dream job, though, in that area? I wonder how, like, cartel-affiliated areas function from a childhood basis. In certain areas, yeah, for sure. But it's weird to be, like, when you're 5. I don't think... You think, like, 5-year-olds growing up there are like, I want to be a cartel member when I'm older. Like, witnessing people die and shit. I think it's once you're, like, a teenager is where they start. I think all kids... like 5 or 6 are probably like, I want to be an astronaut. Because you're innocent and full of hope. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, the sky's the limit. And then you get hit like a fucking truck, you know? And so I'm assuming when they're like teenagers, they're probably, you know, starting to recognize reality and the poor situation they're in. And then they start turning to like getting introduced to the cartel. Because there's some young guys that are in the cartel. Where they, you know, they start selling drugs at a young age. They have to kill somebody when they're like 14, and then they're in.
People will call Guzman El Chapo because of his height. He doesn't grow taller than 1.67 meters. El Chapo drops out of school early. He doesn't even finish elementary school. Instead, he spends his time working on the marijuana and poppy fields, a family tradition. From a young age, El Chapo is extremely ambitious. He makes friends with big names in the local drug scene, determined to rise through the ranks of Mexican organized crime. First, he becomes a so-called problem solver. Whenever
it is crazy that cartels, gangs, and mafias effectively functioned and function as a business. They're just an illegal business. Like, they have, yeah, they kill people, they, you know, run drugs, they do all that, but they have to have accountants, they have payroll, they have rankings of people, higher-ups and grunts and people that have to do easy work versus hard, complicated things that involve planning. It's so weird that it's just that's the business that it is. Because you usually just perceive it as like a lawless, anarchist area, but there is a functioning system.
El Chapo eliminates the person responsible. His uncompromising attitude makes him trustworthy, and he grows close to the kingpin of the Guadalajara cartel. When the boss is arrested, El Chapo keeps the business running, ultimately setting up his own organization with other traffickers, the Sinaloa Cartel. He organizes planes, trucks, and rail cars to deliver cocaine and heroin into the United States, and he even builds border-crossing tunnels, a skill that will come in handy many years later. In those early years, one incident really puts El Chapo on the map. This is Juan Jesus Posadas. He's the Archbishop of Guadalajara, and
I always wonder how big you have to get for the U.S. to start looking for you, where you're out of country. Because when he gets caught, he's getting caught by U.S. officials. It's not the Mexican government.
One of the highest ranks in the church. Posadas is a popular man.
Oh, did he kill?
He advocates for
like a priest,
the poor, and publicly condemns drug trade. Right now, he's on his way to the airport to meet an ambassador of the Vatican. At the same time, El Chapo and his bodyguards pull into the parking lot. They are here to catch a flight to the beach resort town of Puerto Vallarta, one of El Chapo's favorite places to party. We don't know exactly what happened in this parking lot next. One thing we know for sure, though, the Cardinal will not survive. This is the official version. These brothers run a drug trafficking operation out of Tijuana. They are at war with El Chapo and his cartel. They fight over drug-running territory, and somehow they get wind that El Chapo is going to be at the airport that day. So one of the brothers and a group of gunmen rush there to ambush him. When they spot him and his bodyguards, they step out of their cars and open fire. El Chapo and his men run toward the terminal building, taking cover behind cars in the lot.
And in the crossfire, the fucking priest gets hit, so they didn't kill him.
It's raining bullets, but somehow they manage to escape without getting hit. The failed assassination leaves 7 people dead, among them the Cardinal. This is the version of events that authorities will publicly report. Posadas was caught in the crossfire. Wrong time, wrong place. But there are doubts about this story. His death doesn't appear like a coincidence. Forensic experts will later say it's likely that the gunman killed the Cardinal deliberately. He was shot 14 times from close range.
Well, because he still was negative publicity for them. Not like, being in the cartel is, an upholding career to have in terms of the public eye. But when you have people advocating against you and trying to build some sort of uprising defense against you, there's a reason to kill them.
Later, the officials suggest that the gunman had mistaken the cars. El Chapo regularly drives a white Mercury Grand Marquis, the same model Posadas sat in that day.
Oh, so they started shooting at the wrong car?
The gunman thought it's El Chapo's car and opened fire. But the Cardinal wore his robe when he was shot. He was not dressed at all like a drug lord. If the gunman killed him at a close range, how could they have confused him with El Chapo? Years later, the successor of Posadas will make a serious...
It feels weird knowing El Chapo's alive. Dude, there's a lot of known serial killers that are either alive or died recently.
Years later, the successor of Posadas will make a serious accusation. He claims the murder of the Cardinal was a crime of the state.
Se trató de un crimen de Estado, perpetrado por la Policía Judicial Federal, es decir, por la Policía de la PGR.
I mean, yeah, because if you're in a poorer country and the cartel makes that amount of money, you could basically, just like when we were playing the fucking Mafia game or historically in the Mafia, you're able to buy anybody. Like, at some point, there's a price tag where you're able to buy somebody, and if you don't buy them, you either scare them into submission or you just kill them. Like, that's what the cartel will do. And it works because it's like, hey, they're either going to pay you and you're going to work for them, they're going to scare you, you're going to work for them, or they're just going to fucking kill you. And so, like, in all three ways, they are above. They're basically puppeteering the entire country behind closed doors.
He believes the police carried out the killing for the Mexican government. Posadas had accused government officials of having ties to these cartels. Up to this day, it remains a mystery. What really happened in 1993 at Guadalajara Airport? This is El Chapo's wife, his sons, and one of his closest partners. Just 2 months ago, El Chapo was captured and brought to Altiplano Maximum Security Prison. Now the group is working on a plan to get him out. They begin by acquiring an old property 1 kilometer away from the prison. Next, they buy an old warehouse nearby. Here they store weapons in an armored pickup truck. Then they hire workers for one very specific job, digging a sophisticated tunnel.
How long do you think that took to dig a tunnel 1 kilometer and not be heard? Because it wasn't that far underground. And it's so weird they were able to accurately pinpoint where his cell was. Because, like, if you're underground, you have no idea where the fuck you are. Obviously, geolocation in the early 2010s, but still.
Back in 1993, after the shootout at Guadalajara Airport, the Mexican government placed a bounty on El Chapo. It took just 2 weeks until he was found and arrested. He denies being responsible for the death of the cardinal. He insists that he was the supposed target of the shootout. Ultimately, the authorities believe him. They don't charge him for homicide, just for drug trafficking. He is sentenced to 20 years in a Mexican prison, but he continues to run the Sinaloa cartel from behind bars. Through his lawyers, he passes orders to his closest allies. He doesn't need to be in the room to pull strings.
And that's wild the lawyers just do that for him.
His empire runs on...
But I mean, he's paying them good money, dude. That's like some Better Call Saul type shit. Like those lawyers for El Chapo, oh my God.
Whispered instructions and tightly coordinated moves. In 2001, El Chapo has enough of life in prison. Also, the Mexican Supreme Court just approved a law that makes it easier to extradite criminals like him to the U.S. Time to get out.
Oh, and yeah, he probably knew because if he got sent to the U.S., he's never getting out. Because for big like drug cartel members or just like cross country criminals, they'll just send you to supermax prisons in the middle of the mountains or the desert, and there's just no escape plan. Because even if you get them out, you're just fucking 200 miles from anywhere important where you're able to hop on a plane and get the fuck out.
The official version of his first
Not like being like in a Miami jail.
Prison escape is spectacular. He supposedly bribes a guard who helps him climb into a laundry cart. The guard then pushes the cart out of the cell, down the hallways, and through an unguarded gate to the parking lot. El Chapo jumps out and climbs into the trunk of a...
Wait, he got out that easily? Hold the fuck up. I thought this was the one where they dug the tunnel.
El Chapo jumps out and climbs into the trunk of a car. The guard gets in and drives to the outer prison gate. After a quick search, the car is waved through. Nobody checks the trunk. But again, that's just the official story. Several authors and journalists don't buy it. One argues that the prison's checkpoints were equipped with heat and motion sensors.
I don't understand why somebody that was directly below El Chapo would try to take his position while he was in prison, though. You know what I mean? Because he was in jail for how long? How long was he in fucking jail? He got imprisoned in 1993. When did he get out? Because if you're in jail for like 3-4 years, wouldn't you think that somebody would try and just steal your position? They'll die. Yeah, but like what? Yeah, he could still feed orders, but I don't understand the fear of taking orders from a man that can't physically do anything himself outside of him just having that aura of power. 2001. So he was in jail for 8 years, and he was still the head of Sinaloa Cartel. Like, how did he successfully... I understand he was passing stuff to his lawyers, but how do you successfully run a cartel behind bars for almost a decade? Yeah, he probably had people that were, like, somewhat below him that ran, you know, the day-to-day functions. Yeah, a level of loyalty for sure. It's the same thing in, like, the mafia. It's like they're family in that sense. Like, they're fucking... They just listen to him. It's like, unless he's dead, he's still the boss. I don't know. What about now? Does the Sinaloa Cartel still exist? Because El Chapo for sure is not feeding info to them now. Does the Sinaloa Cartel still exist? The Sinaloa Cartel's current leader includes Ismael El Mayo, Zambada Garcia, Aurelio El Guano, Guzman Loera, the brother of El Chapo. Okay, so his brother runs it.
Sensors, capable of detecting any living creature, even a cat. That means the alarm...
Do you think he gets any visitations? No. That's so weird to think, though. That, like, you're the son of El Chapo... and you know your dad's alive, but you're never going to see him until even after he dies. Because I'm assuming they're not going to, like, ship his body back when he's dead. They'll probably just cremate him in the U.S.
Alarms would have gone off. Instead, the journalists suggest that El Chapo may have left the prison dressed in a police uniform, escorted by other corrupt officers. One way or another, systemic corruption likely played a role, and El Chapo put his newly won freedom to use. In the following years, the Mexican cartel landscape changes dramatically. In 2002, the leader of the Tijuana cartel is killed in a shootout with police. One of the brothers who had supposedly tried to assassinate El Chapo at the airport. A year later, the leader of the Gulf cartel is arrested. 2 major cartels are now without leadership. El Chapo sees an opportunity. He pushes into Tijuana and Gulf territory, triggering brutal fighting. Nuevo Laredo, an area along the US-Mexican border, practically turns into a war zone. Former forces of the Mexican army begin working for El Chapo.
Genuine question. The mafia may still exist in one form or another, not nearly as much as it did in the past time. I know gangs still heavily exist in the United States. When they push drugs, are they getting drugs from cartels? Like, how does that work? Like, if you, or even like biker gangs, like they have to have so they have connections with Mexican cartels. I'm assuming that like U.S. gangs, their higher-ups have connections either through a middleman or maybe directly through to either Mexican cartel or somewhere else, even maybe like Canada if they're drug trafficking through there, to just receive things. Maybe they grow some of the stuff themselves, but I assume that most drugs sold in the United States, like hard drugs, are not grown or manufactured in the U.S. Maybe like meth, but like cocaine and shit like that, like that's all from Mexico.
They clash with what's left of the Gulf.
And then they cut it themselves. They get pure cocaine from Mexico. They probably test it, honestly. And then they cut it to their own things while they sell.
Cartel, whose core fighters were partly trained by the U.S. Early on, the violence results in more than 1,000 deaths. Many of them...
Do you think that gangs got worse, or are they less dangerous from now? U.S. gangs? I think there's less U.S. gangs that exist now than previously, but I think the gangs that still exist are, like, prominent. There's just not as many.
Early on, the violence results in more than 1,000 deaths, many of them civilians. And that's only the beginning. In 2006, Felipe Calderón becomes Mexico's new president. Determined to crack down on organized crime, he declares war on the cartels and deploys the military. The violence escalates dramatically. Between 2007 and 2014, over 160,000 people died in the course of the war on drugs. 2007 and 2014, over 160,000 people died in the course of the war on drugs in Mexico.
In 7 years, 160,000 people died in the civil war on drugs?
In these years of
how many of those were civilians versus like soldiers and gang members?
Bloodshed, El Chapo rises. He becomes the world's most wanted criminal, transforming the Sinaloa cartel into one of the most powerful criminal organizations in history. It becomes the top supplier of drugs to the United States: cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and fentanyl.
Really, meth? I understand the other three. I feel like meth would be manufactured and made, I don't want to say in-house, but in the U.S. I understand cocaine because cocoa leaves being grown, or even heroin or fentanyl because they're opioids.
El Chapo's cartel operates in 50 countries and generates billions of dollars in profits each year. In turn, El Chapo becomes extremely wealthy, eventually making Forbes' list of the world's billionaires. No wonder it's hard to keep him locked up. El Chapo's rescue commando needs to know the exact location of his prison cell, so they smuggle a GPS watch into his prison cell.
I was just asking how the fuck they knew where they were digging.
Disguised as a food item. Now the workers know in what direction they need to dig. Over the span of a year, they dig a sophisticated tunnel, a carefully planned complex construction costing approximately $5 million to make. The tunnel is 1.5 kilometers long and 1.70 meters high. It is reinforced.
What? How do you think they got him the second time, or even the third time then? Because wouldn't you just think he'd be, like, posted up? Okay, no, if they knew where he was, they might, like, carpet bomb him with a plane. Do you think he had to hide? I don't know. Because I was going to say, why doesn't he just post up in a mansion with, like, 100,000 fucking guards around him?
There are lights and even a ventilation system. Digging a tunnel creates a lot of dirt, so the workers build a rail system with a motorcycle adapted to it to move the dirt out of the tunnel. The construction is also supposed to function as an escape vehicle later on. But how did El Chapo end up in El Altiplano in the first place? Andrew Hogan is an agent with the Drug Enforcement Agency. He wants to take down the most powerful drug lord on Earth, perhaps in history. Currently, he's looking for allies, but he soon discovers somehow there is no task force. No team, not even a single federal agent assigned to the job of bringing El Chapo to justice. So he takes a Spanish class and prepares to move to Mexico. Meanwhile,
God, big fucking hopes for this man. Oh, nobody's hunting for El Chapo. Let me learn some Spanish and move to Mexico. What, is he going to single-handedly fucking find this guy?
One of Andrew's colleagues in the U.S. manages to get the pin to El Chapo's BlackBerry, thanks to someone in his inner circle. He tracks down his phone to the holiday resort Cabo San Lucas. The colleague immediately calls Andrew. They are excited, and so they pass the information to the officials in Mexico. The DEA and Mexican police quickly head down to the place where El Chapo is supposedly hiding, but he's nowhere to be found. Next, they narrow down El Chapo's phone signal to one of 3 mansions near the resort Cabo San Lucas. This time, it's a hit. He's there. But before the forces arrive, El Chapo just escapes through the back door. Somehow he makes it to an airstrip without being caught and is flown to safety.
Bro, if I'm El Chapo, I'm like remotely running that shit from Greenland. You know what I mean? Like, why is he, I understand, okay, he has to be in Mexico to like be the leader, because then maybe they'll like try and like press him or some shit. Like, I mean, out of country they could still get him, but also like the people within his circle might like somewhat betray him or something if he's like too far away. But I don't know. Greenland's in NATO, bro. I'm just thinking like, why? Like, if you're in Mexico, I feel like he's more likely to get caught. But then he can't be hands-on in the cartel. How many people is enough for a gang? Fuck if I know.
El Chapo always seems to be one step ahead. He constantly changes his SIM cards and phones, and simply outsmarts the authorities. One DEA agent supposedly said the Mexicans couldn't catch El Chapo if he was standing at the fucking Starbucks across the street from the embassy. But Andrew Hogan doesn't give up. In May 2012, he moves to Mexico City with his family and takes over the Sinaloa case. In the months that follow, he and his team begin intercepting members of El Chapo's inner circle. Bit by bit, they uncovered the cartel's complex communication system, how often numbers are changed, possible code names, and GPS locations. Slowly, a picture begins to emerge. One day, El Chapo seemingly wants to meet an underling in person, and he sends one of his chauffeurs to pick him up. Hogan tracks his phone. The chauffeur finally arrives at a place in Culiacan. The signal leads to a group of 5 houses. Hogan organizes a capture operation with dozens of Mexican Marines, helicopters, and trucks, and he joins the mission himself. They surround the property and storm inside. But once again, El Chapo is gone. Instead, they find a strangely placed bathtub covering the
No! They already had a different tunnel? How many tunnels did he have?
that leads into the sewers of Culiacan.
What?
But this time, the Marines manage to stay on El Chapo's tail. 3 days later, they find out that one of his men had driven him to the coastal town of Mazatlan, to a hotel. The Marines enter the 4th floor of the hotel. They storm into room 401, heading...
God, dude, you know how anxious he probably was on a given day? I'm not, like, sympathizing with him, but I'm saying, imagine being the head of, like, the biggest Mexican cartel in your time, and, like, every 3 days, you're barely escaping, like, fucking Marine tanks coming for you.
Chapo is with his family. He barricades himself in the bathroom with an assault rifle.
You think he regrets it that when he's in prison? I don't know. I don't know El Chapo.
His wife pleads with the soldiers not to harm their daughters. Shortly after El Chapo surrenders, they got him. Andrew Hogan's job is done now. He caught the most wanted man on the planet, and he worries for the safety of his family, who moved to Mexico with him. So they board a plane back to the US. Meanwhile, El Chapo goes to Altiplano. The US is pushing hard for his extradition. This would likely be his doom, the end of his reign. Time for another tunnel.
This is where he ends up getting out on the motorbike.
The rescue team and the workers manage to locate the exact spot of El Chapo's cell shower. They build a 10-meter vertical passageway that connects the tunnels to the cell, including a ladder.
10-meter vertical? They were digging 30 fucking feet underground? I thought the tunnel was like 10 feet underground. Like 8 feet underground. Like not, like right there. That's why I was like, oh, how did they hear him digging? How did they not hear him digging? Because I didn't think it was that deep. Jesus, dude. They're starting to fucking strip mine.
All this digging and drilling creates a lot of noise. Several inmates are complaining, but the guards
they did hear it.
Ignore them. El Chapo's rescue team manages to complete the 5 million tunnel directly into his prison cell, without anyone interfering.
Bro, so they just heard the digging for weeks?
All that's left is breaking through the cell floor, and thus comes the day. El Chapo sits on his bed. A surveillance camera monitors him closely. The camera also records audio. You can hear television. The volume is turned up. But you also hear loud banging noises. Probably someone is breaking through the cell floor. Next, El Chapo begins to pace up and down in his cell. After some time, he walks to his shower stall bends over and goes back to his bed. He removes his shoes, sits for a second. Then he walks behind the shower wall.
Yo, his heart was probably fucking racing. Oh my God.
And simply disappears.
How long did it take them to notice?
He squeezes through the hole in the ground. It's just 50 by 50 centimeters wide. 1 meter below, he finds footing on a ladder. He climbs down 10 meters into the ground until he reaches the tunnel. Someone is already waiting for him, likely his wife's brother. The rescuer sits on the motorcycle on rails. El Chapo climbs on behind him. Together, they make the 1.5 kilometer ride to the other end of the tunnel. When they
Wow, what a ride that would be. You think they talked? No. I think it was dead. It was probably like, hey, haven't seen you in a while. And then just go. Like fucking haul ass.
arrive, El Chapo and his companion climb up a small ladder through the exit shaft. They end up in an unfinished house, covered with construction material. An ATV is parked outside. They drive a short distance to a warehouse and switch to an SUV. Then they drive for 2 hours, until they arrive at an airstrip. A plane is already waiting. They board it and fly to Sinaloa. Two months later, one of El Chapo's sons posts a tweet. "I'm doing fine here. You already know with whom." Attached is a photo, presumably with his father. The tweet is tagged with a location, Costa Rica.
No way he just fucking leaked where El Chapo was. Is that how they found him again?
Let's back up for a second. Some things about this spectacular escape just don't add up. There's video footage of guards watching their screens as El Chapo disappears, yet it takes them 20 minutes to check his cell. They even wait a few more minutes before they finally enter and check the escape hole. Also, it seems unlikely that building such a tunnel truly went unnoticed.
They may have paid people off.
After all inmates
They may have paid people off. Yeah.
actively complained about the drilling noise. A large majority of Mexicans believe the escape was an inside job. Shortly after El Chapo's second prison escape, the prison's warden and 2 other officials were fired. Next, 4 Mexican officials were charged. 2 were members of Mexico's Secret Service, based at the prison. The other 2 were guards who sat in the control room, monitoring El Chapo's cell. The accusation is that they bought El Chapo valuable time by not raising the alarm once the drug lord was gone. And El Chapo, he again becomes one of the most wanted criminals on Earth. The pressure to finally bring him to justice.
$5 million? No, but they're killing your ass. Nope. I could see El Chapo at a fucking local 7-Eleven and I'm not calling that fucking phone number. Hell no. Hell no, I'm not ratting on his ass. That would get you killed. Your whole family's dead. Nope. Not doing that. That would be such a bad idea. You have $5 million. $5 million, you're going to have fucking 1 day to spend it.
Justice is higher than ever. The hunt
Because they're going to fucking skin you alive, dude. You're going to die a gruesome death. It's fucking not worth it.
is on. Then El Chapo makes a crazy move. He knows he's considered a legend in Mexico, and he wants even more fame. A movie about his life on the big screen.
Dude, did I, like, skip? Oh, no.
Sean Penn is already involved in a production about him, along with Mexican actress Kate del Castillo. Castillo manages to contact El Chapo and his associates. Finally, El Chapo agrees to meet her and Sean Penn in person to talk about the movie, while technically he's on the run. This is a photo of the meetup.
What? I did not know this. Sean Penn met El Chapo while he was on the run.
Sean Penn interviews El Chapo about his career as a drug lord, a story later published by the Rolling Stone. In it, Penn reveals that El Chapo's escape tunnel engineers have been flown to Germany for 3 months of extensive additional training, necessary to deal with the low-lying water table beneath the prison. It's a gripping read. Beneath his smile, there's a doubtlessness to his facial expression. A question comes to mind as I observe his face, both as he speaks as while he listens. What is it that removes all doubt from a man's eyes? Is it power, admirable clarity, or
Power, dude. I wouldn't even say soullessness. I mean, soullessness maybe from power, but like, dude, you're one of the most powerful men in the world. Leader of the fucking Sinaloan cartel at that time. He had like endless money and basically had like a country at hold. Like, you could do anything, especially after you've already proven to escape prison twice.
soullessness? But according to government sources, the interview is also a crucial factor for investigators to get closer to El Chapo. Apparently, all the while, they're monitoring Penn and Castillo's movements very closely. It's October 9th, 2015. Mexican special forces are closing in on him in the mountains of Sinaloa.
How the fuck did they contact El Chapo? Side question. It was like, oh yeah, the actress got in contact with El Chapo. Through what? Fucking Facebook Messenger? What did they just hit him up? And how did they arrange that meetup? Wouldn't you think that the people would be like, yeah, we're going to like make sure you don't try and fucking work with the FBI to get us or some shit.
After a while, they actually spot him. He's only got one bodyguard with him. This is their moment. They take off after them, chasing them through the terrain. As they get nearer, El Chapo falls off a cliff. His bodyguard finds him and carries him to the depths of the forest. The special forces lose sight of them and they escape. A catastrophic failure. But the authorities don't give up the hunt. In January 2016, they get another chance. The Marines manage to locate El Chapo once again in the coastal city of Los Mochis. The clue comes from a taco order placed from a white van. Witnesses say the driver is one of El Chapo's men. The Marines begin to surveil the car. It ultimately leads them to a safe house. A few hours later, the soldiers storm the place. Cartel gunmen try to hold them off. A gunfight breaks out. The Marines eventually push up to the second floor, then the roof. But El Chapo is gone. True to his form, he and one of his gunmen fled through a hidden tunnel. Right now, they are climbing out of a drainage tunnel a short distance away, right across from a Walmart.
Oh my God, no way. Imagine you're shopping at a Walmart in Mexico on vacation in 2016, and you see fucking El Chapo pop out of like a fucking, like a drain. Like, what? That would be surreal.
El Chapo and his gunmen need to escape quickly. They steal a car, guns drawn, but after just driving a few blocks, the car breaks down. So they ditch it and lose valuable time. Then they take over another car and manage to get on the highway, but it's too late. Police finally arrest El Chapo, one of history's most powerful drug lords. He tells the officers, "You are all going to die." 40 of his assassins are supposedly on their way to free him, but he gets handed over to the Marines, and it's over. After a decade of hide and seek, escaping over and over again, in all likelihood protected by systemic corruption, El Chapo has finally been caught. Later that day, the Mexican president tweets, "Mission accomplished. We have him." Soon after, El Chapo was
Have they ever done an interview with him recently?
extradited to the United States, the one thing he truly feared. On July 17th, 2019,
I want to look that up.
Quiero dejar en claro el contenido de esta entrevista es exclusivo para la señorita Kay del Castillo y el señor Sean Penn. ¿Y cómo pasó? ¿Cómo se está en contacto con las drogas? Bueno, de la edad de 15 años en adelante, de donde yo soy, que es el municipio de Badiraguato, yo me crié en un rancho que se llama La Tuna. Por allá hasta la fecha no hay fuentes de trabajo.
I don't know. I've always wondered, like, if they've ever done, like, they always, like, hey, have you ever done, like, they never do in-depth interviews. They're always like, hey, how do you get into the drug business? I would be like, I don't give a fuck how you got into the drug business, dude. Like, what do you think on a day-to-day basis philosophically? You know what I mean? Like, do you ever go like, wow, dude, I've, like, killed, like, 100,000 people? Like, shit like that. Like, just, or, like, even dictators in history. Like, being able to sit down and, like, ask fucking people that have contributed to mass death. Like, how do you, like, do you care? Is that something that you battle with? Did you care and now you don't? And it's like you've grown cold to it? Or is it just like, hey, man, love of the game. That's how it fucking happens. Like, that's how the fucking ball rolls.
3 years after his second escape, he was sentenced to life in Colorado's Supermax prison. That's where he remains locked up to this day. The Sinaloa cartel and other Mexican cartels.
You would go crazy, dude. Imagine being in that cell 23 hours a day. Forever.
That's where he remains locked up to this day. The Sinaloa cartel and other Mexican cartels are as strong as ever, operating as undeterred global organizations.
Not me. Bro, TB, you would go... I'd give you a week. I'd give you a week. A week. I give the average person 6 days until they fucking lose their mind. 23 hours a day, you're just in a room. Yeah, you got a book. That's all you got? You got one book. You got a book. Maybe a few books. You get a book every once in a while. You have the same fucking shit meal every day. You shit on camera. You poop on camera. There's no sunlight. There's a little ass window. And you're just there all fucking day. All fucking day. You would get so bored. Boredom is on the level of disgust. On like a wheel of emotions. It's like a very minimal form of disgust. You would go from bored to it literally feeling like genuine torture.
There's so much more to this story that we couldn't cover in this video. But apparently, some video journalist obsessed with maps is about to pick it up very soon.
Oh, Johnny Harris! That's my goat. That's my goat. He said he was making a video on North Korea soon, and I've been waiting for it. Love watching videos about North Korea. Ugh. I don't think anybody between the age of 14 to 20 would be able to handle more than a day because they would miss the internet. I think you could handle a day. I'm saying, I think it would get easier and then really hard. I think for the majority of us, if you were in a room alone for 23 hours a day, first week, it's like, fuck, dude, I have no technology. You get over it. Then it's like, wow, I have no interaction with people. Uh-oh. Wow, I haven't seen the outside. Wow, I'm never getting out of here. And then you just fucking go, ooh, 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 ooh. Fucking crazy. Also, W stream chat. If you have any videos you want me to watch or games you want me to play, video suggestion tab, game suggestion tab.